Hey everyone, and welcome to another one of our videos. Today we're going to be doing an alternator replacement on my 2011 F-150 Raptor. This should be the same for all of the Ford 6.2 liters, at least within the 12th gen F-150 and 1st gen Raptor. Probably the Super Duties. If they change it later on, it's a possibility, but this should at least apply to a lot of the trucks and definitely to the Gen 1 Raptors with the 6.2. In my case, mine failed pretty suddenly and catastrophically failed, at least internally, to the point that it no longer outputs any voltage whatsoever, which is fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing replaced today. First step is going to be disconnecting the battery. 8mm I'm going to pull off positive and negative terminals, just because we have the positive coming straight off the alternator as well. Just get everything fully disconnected, and I'm going to get this battery on a charger too, since it hasn't been charged for a partial drive now at this point. Get this thing ready to rock and roll for starting back up, hopefully. And then we'll move on to the rest of the job, step by step. Alright, so next step is getting your air intake tube out of the way. I didn't show this because mine's not stock. This is a Velant cold air intake from way back when these trucks were brand new. And I've replaced couplers and stuff over the years, so none of the hardware and whatnot is factory. In my case, I've got 11mm hardware down here, 10mm up there. And then what I ended up doing, if you happen to have the same intake, is loosening. I ended up loosening all the clamps, but really all you need to do is loosen the one on the throttle body and the one right on the air box, so the very two far ends, not the intermediary two, and then just kind of pull it off diagonally and move it out of the way. So you can see mine's moved out of the way now. And now we have super clear direct access to the alternator. So I haven't checked the nut size here yet, but we've got 3 15mm bolts that hold this thing in. And then we have a wiring harness with a plug, and then with a bolt. I don't know if I'm going to be able to flip this up with one hand while viewing it through the camera. Yes, I can. With a bolt that looks to be somewhere in the 11, 12, 13mm range. I'll let you know the specific size for sure once I get this going. So all we need to do is remove those three and unplug that, and the alternator will come out. That said, we got to take the serpentine belt off first. So we're going to have a, I believe it is 1/2-inch drive down to the belt tensioner right here. I'm going to throw a 1/2-inch breaker bar on there, loosen the belt tensioner. I'm just going to pop the belt loose off of this pulley. It's the easiest to access for sure. And then let the tensioner back, and the belt's going to nicely rest pretty much right down here. At that point, you're going to be safe to start loosening those bolts, and we'll go from there. So I will come back once I've at least gotten the belt off, and then once I know what that size of bolt is right there. All right, so we have everything loosened up, and we're ready to go ahead and actually pull the alternator out. These bolts, again, 15mm. I had to use a 1/2-inch air impact because my other little 1/4-inch drive one wasn't strong enough to pull these out. I believe, from what I've seen, the torque spec is 35 foot-pounds, so it's kind of surprising the little guy wasn't able to do it, but so be it. It's an old one that I have where the truck is right now, because this thing failing left me a little bit stranded. Not too bad, but a little bit. So got to double check the torque spec. Was able to pull those out no problem. You could probably do them by hand, no problem too. And then 13mm up here is indeed the size, and was able to get that out with a little 1/4-inch drive impact. The only other thing is the connector. You can see it's got one of these type of tabs, so you actually push towards the front of the connector on the tab, and you just pull it out. If you're struggling with it for any reason, you might want to try pushing the connector in, then pushing the tab, then pulling out. Sometimes if you've pulled before you've actually released, you can get it kind of jammed and locked up in there. So now you can see the alternator is free. The wiring is attached to this upper bracket. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull the bolts out, pull the upper bracket kind of up and out of the way, and pull the alternator out. Again, at this point, it's totally free. I'm going to do this off camera so I actually can use both hands, because I'm not going to try to do this one-handed. And then we should be able to just plop the new one in here and reverse the disassembly steps in terms of assembly. Again, I'm going to torque these to 35 foot-pounds if that feels about right and seems about right. Cool. If it seems like we should be going tighter, then I will. But I will let you know how that end of things goes. And otherwise, we should be in pretty darn good shape to get ourselves moving forward from there. Alrighty, alternator's back on. Everything's ready to rock and roll. The 3 15mm bolts, 35 foot-pounds. I actually did 36, and again with a little bit of Loctite. And then this guy right here, per the service manual that I can find, is 8 Newton meters. That's the battery positive terminal. So went ahead and did 8 millimeters with a 13 millimeter, or sorry, 8 newton meters with a 13 millimeter socket, and then plugged back in that connector there as well. So at this point, we should be ready to rock and roll, other than finishing up the reassembly. So the last bits that we have are putting the belt back on. Super, super simple. You can see where I rested it down there. All I'm gonna have to do, because I kept it caught between the two idler pulleys here, is just once I get the tensioner pushed down, just pull the belt up, throw it over the alternator pulley, and then let the tensioner back into tension, and we're good to go there. And then all I have to do is put the intake tube back on. So I'll show you the finished product once we're wrapped up, and we'll see if this thing works. Alrighty, everything is buttoned back up and ready to rock and roll now. Haven't done the first start yet, but frankly, if this doesn't solve my problem, then either I got a DOA alternator, unlikely, or I have something else that's a problem, which unlikely, and also would not be a good situation for me. But how to replace your alternator? Job done. Pretty straightforward. I'm doing this in not the most hospitable conditions in Arizona in the summer, and was able to knock this out in probably 30 or 45 minutes, all things considered, with the tools pre-gathered and everything, and with filming. So pretty straightforward process overall. One of the easier alternators I've ever changed. With that, I want to thank you all for watching. Let me know down in the comment section if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.